The morning sun filtered softly through the white curtains, painting golden lines across the marble floor. The house was alive with joy, laughter, music, the rustle of silk dresses, and the smell of roses everywhere. It was Ayan's wedding day, the day he had waited for his whole life. Everyone seemed busy, photographers rushing through the hall, his cousins teasing him about nervousness, and his father talking to guests. But Ayan stood by the window, looking out at the garden where the decorations shimmered in the early light. He smiled faintly, but something deep inside felt quiet, almost too quiet for a day like this. As he turned away from the window, one of the maids came in holding a small box wrapped in plain brown paper. "Sir, this came for you. The guard said an old man delivered it early morning." Ayan frowned. "For me? Who sent it?" The maid shook her head. "He just said it's from someone who loved you very much." Curious, Ayan took the box. It was light, sealed neatly with tape. On the top, his name was written in an elegant, familiar handwriting, one he hadn't seen in years. His heart skipped. It was his mother's handwriting. He froze. His fingers trembled slightly as he sat on the bed, staring at that name written in blue ink. His mother, Amara, had passed away 5 years ago. She had been gone for so long that even her voice had started fading in his memory. He tore open the wrapping carefully. Inside was a white envelope tied with a red thread. On the front were just 4 words, "For Ayan, on your wedding day." His chest tightened. He sat still for a moment, the world outside fading into silence. All the noise, the laughter, the chatter, the music disappeared. It was just him, the letter, and the ghost of a woman who had once been his whole world. He opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, slightly yellowed, her handwriting flowing gracefully across it. "My dearest Ayan, if you are reading this, it means you've grown into a man, ready to begin a new chapter of your life. I wish I could be there to see it, to fix your tie like I used to when you were a boy, and to hold your hand just once more before you take someone else's. But life doesn't always let us stay as long as we want to. Sometimes love must say goodbye so it can teach you something deeper, something eternal." Ayan's eyes blurred. He wiped them quickly, afraid someone might walk in. He kept reading. "You might think I left this world quietly, but I carried a storm inside me, of dreams for you. Every late night you studied, every time you failed and stood again, I was proud. You may not have seen it, but I was there in every prayer whispered, every candle lit. Even when you thought I was distant, I was fighting my own battle, not against death, but against time." His throat tightened. Memories came flooding back. Her tired smile, the way she used to hide her cough, her hands always cold but gentle. He remembered the arguments too, the days when he had been too busy to talk, the times she had called and he had said he'd call back but never did. He turned the letter over. "There was more. You will soon have someone to share your life with. Love her the way I loved you, patiently, selflessly, without pride. Never let silence become your habit. Never let ego become your comfort. Promise me you'll choose kindness even when it's hard. That's how you'll keep me alive in you." The words felt like whispers from another world. His chest ached as if he'd just lost her again. Just then, his father knocked and entered. "Ayan, everyone's waiting downstairs." "You ready?" Ayan quickly folded the letter, hiding it in his pocket. "Yes, just a minute, Dad." His father smiled, unaware of what his son was holding. "You look just like her today," he said softly before leaving. When he was gone, Ayan looked at the envelope again. There was something else inside. A small photo, worn at the edges. It was of him and his mother at his school graduation. She was smiling, proud and radiant, her arm around his shoulder. On the back of the photo, she had written, "You were my best story, Ayan. Finish it beautifully." He couldn't hold back anymore. Tears rolled silently down his face. For the first time in years, he let himself feel everything he had buried, the love, the loss, the guilt. He whispered, "I miss you, Mom." Outside, the music started again. His best friend called out from the hallway, "Bro, the bride's here." Ayan smiled faintly through his tears. He placed the letter close to his heart, whispering again, "I'll make you proud, Mom." And as he walked toward the ceremony, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Her presence, warm and invisible, walking beside him. That day, Ayan didn't just marry his bride. He married the promise his mother had left behind. A promise to love without fear, to live with purpose, and to never let the ones he loved feel unseen. The wedding night was over, and the grand house had finally grown quiet. The music had faded, the laughter had drifted away, and the world outside was resting after a day of celebration. But inside Ayan's room, sleep wouldn't come. He sat by the window, holding his mother's letter once again. The moonlight slipped through the curtains, touching the paper softly, like a hand reaching out from the past. His wife, Alina, was already asleep, her wedding jewelry placed neatly on the table. Ayan glanced at her, then back at the envelope. His chest felt heavy, but there was something else too, a question that wouldn't stop whispering. What had she meant by fighting my own battle, not against death, but against time? The words echoed in his mind like a riddle. He opened the small box again, checking if there was anything else inside. Beneath the wrapping paper, under a thin cardboard lining, his fingers touched something. A small old key. Rusted around the edges, tied with a faded red ribbon, Ayan frowned. He didn't remember ever seeing a lock in the house that matched this key. He stared at it, turning it in his palm when suddenly a memory flashed. His mother's old wooden cabinet in her study. She had always kept it locked, saying it contained her unfinished dreams. Without thinking, Ayan got up, quietly left the room, and walked down the hallway to his mother's old study. The house was dark, except for the soft hum of night. His heart pounded as he stepped inside. The air still carried her faint scent of jasmine and paper. The cabinet stood in the corner exactly as he remembered. Dust had gathered on its handles. He knelt down, took a deep breath, and pushed the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. The click echoed softly in the silence. Inside were stacks of notebooks, letters, and photographs. Some were labeled with years, 2012, 2013, 2014. He picked one up. It was a diary. The pages worn but neat, her handwriting curling beautifully across every line. He began to read. June 6, 2014, Ayan left early today. He didn't have breakfast. I told him to slow down, but he's in such a hurry to grow up. I saw his father's reflection in him today. That same hunger to prove himself. I only hope he never loses his softness. Ayan's lips curved in a small, broken smile. He turned the page. June 20th, 2014. The doctor says I should rest more. But how can I rest when Ayan's future depends on me? The business is falling apart. His father's debts are heavier than I thought. I can't let Ayan see this pain. He must believe everything is fine. He deserves a world without worry. His eyes widened. He hadn't known about any of this. His father had always told him their company recovered easily after a small loss. But reading this, he realized his mother had been carrying the entire weight alone. He turned more pages, each one a story of love disguised as strength. July 3rd, 2014. The chemo sessions are getting harder. I hide the bruises under long sleeves. Ayan asked today why I looked tired. I smiled and said I was fasting for him. He laughed, and for a moment, I forgot the pain. My little boy still sees me as unbreakable. I want to stay that way, at least until he finishes his studies. Ayan's throat burned. His hands shook as he touched the words. His mother had been sick, and he hadn't known. Not once had she shown weakness. He turned the page again. September 18th, 2015. I sold the gold bangles today. The money will pay Ayan's tuition for another semester. He doesn't need to know. Someday, when he stands on his own, he'll understand that love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just quiet sacrifices no one ever sees. Ayan felt his breath catch. He remembered those bangles. His father had told him they were locked away for safety. But she had sold them. For him. The pages blurred with tears. He closed the diary, pressing it against his chest. For the first time, he felt the full weight of everything she had done. the sleepless nights, the lies to protect him, the endless strength that had built his life. He sat there for hours, lost in her words. The dawn began to touch the windows when Alina quietly entered the room. "Ayan," she whispered, "you didn't come to bed." He wiped his eyes quickly. "I found something," he said softly, handing her the diary. She sat beside him, flipping through a few pages. Tears filled her eyes too. "She was incredible," she whispered. He nodded, voice trembling. "I didn't even know she was sick. I didn't see any of it. She hid it all, for me." Alina placed her hand on his. "You can't blame yourself. She didn't want you to carry her pain. That's what mothers do." Ayan stared at the open pages again. "I just wish I had one more chance to thank her." Alina smiled faintly. "Maybe you do. Maybe that's why she left you the letter, so you'd finally see everything she never said." He closed the diary carefully, as if holding a piece of her soul. "I'll make sure her story isn't forgotten," he whispered. "She deserves more than silence." The morning sun began to rise, spilling golden light across the pages of her handwriting. For the first time, Ayan didn't feel lost. He felt guided. Every word, every sacrifice, every secret was now a map leading him back to her love. And deep down, he knew this was just the beginning. The morning light filled the room, but Ayan felt none of its warmth. He sat at his mother's old desk, the diary open in front of him, surrounded by years of her memories. Pages full of hope, pain, and sacrifices lay spread across the table. Every word told him something new about the woman he thought he had known. Hours had passed since he first opened that diary, but his eyes still searched for something more, something that explained why she had chosen to reveal all this after her death. He turned another page, December 10th, 2016. "The doctor says there isn't much time left. I look at Ayan's pictures every night. He's almost done with university. I can't let him see me like this. I won't let him remember me as weak. I need to leave him strength, not sadness. Maybe one day, when he's ready, he'll understand why I kept things from him." Ayan's heart tightened as he read. She had written those words just months before she passed away. But there was more at the bottom of the page, a line scribbled in haste. "If he ever finds this diary, tell him to open the last box in the study." My final wish rests there. He froze. The last box. He looked around. There were many, small, large, some old and dusty. He moved them aside, one by one, until he found a plain wooden box covered with a white cloth. No lock, just a soft clasp. He opened it carefully. Inside, there was a photograph of his mother standing in front of a small building. A faded sign above the door read, "The Hope House, for single mothers." Beneath the photograph was a sealed letter with his name written in her elegant handwriting. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. "My dearest Ayan, if you are reading this, it means you've found the pieces of me I left behind. By now you must know the truth about my illness and my struggles. But there's one more truth you deserve to know. The one that gave my life purpose. After your father's death, I had nothing but you. There were nights when I wanted to give up, but then I'd see your face and remind myself that love can rebuild even the broken. But as I struggled, I saw other women like me, mothers abandoned, alone, and unheard. They had dreams too, but no one believed in them. That's when I decided to build something not just for you, but for them. The Hope House started with only 3 women in a small rented room. I taught them how to stitch, cook, and manage accounts. They found strength, and so did I. That little space became my second home, a place where I healed even while my body was breaking. My last wish, Ayan, is that you don't let the Hope House die with me. You have my strength, my education, my name, and now my dream. Keep it alive, not for me, but for those who still need hope. With all my love, Mom. The letter ended there. But for Ayan, the world had shifted. His mother hadn't just been fighting illness. She had been building something. Something beautiful. Something alive. He picked up the photograph again and whispered, "Hope House." Alina, who had been quietly standing behind him, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Maybe we should go there," she said softly. "See it for ourselves." Ayan nodded, still dazed. "Yes, I need to see what she built." The next morning they drove to the address written on the back of the photo. It was a quiet street on the edge of town. A modest building stood there, freshly painted with a small garden in front. A sign above the gate still read the Hope House. As they entered, a woman in her 40s recognized Ayan instantly. Her eyes filled with tears. "You're her son, aren't you?" she said. Ayan nodded. "You knew my mother?" The woman smiled warmly. "Knew her? She changed my life. I was one of the first women she helped. When I had nothing, she gave me work, food, and respect. She said, 'If the world closes one door, build your own.' She saved me." Ayan's throat tightened. He looked around. There were sewing machines, shelves filled with handmade clothes, and photos of smiling women and children. On the wall hung a framed quote written in his mother's handwriting. "Love is not about holding on. It's about giving what you can, even when it hurts." He walked through the rooms silently, each one carrying her presence, her energy, her heart. Every woman who smiled at him seemed like a living piece of his mother's soul. Finally, he stood in front of her old office, untouched and quiet. On the desk was a small plant, still alive, still green. A tag tied to it read, "For Ayan, so you remember that growth never ends." Tears filled his eyes. She was still taking care of me. Even now. Alina came and stood beside him. "She never left, Ayan," she whispered. "She just changed the way she stays." He smiled faintly through his tears. "Then I'll do the same. I'll take her dream forward. I'll make sure every woman she helped, and every woman who needs help, finds it here." Alina nodded proudly. That's what she would have wanted. Ayan looked around one last time, feeling the weight of loss turn into something else. Purpose. The Hope House wasn't just his mother's legacy. It was her voice, echoing through every life she had touched. And now it was his turn to continue that echo. Ayan stood outside the Hope House the next morning, watching the soft sunlight fall across the signboard. The words his mother had painted years ago still shone with quiet dignity. He felt as though the world was asking him a question, one that only his mother's strength could answer. Could he truly carry her dream forward? The building looked peaceful from the outside, but inside it carried the weight of years. Broken sewing machines, fading walls, and dusty files filled the corners. The women who once worked there had scattered after her death, unable to keep the dream alive without her guidance. As Ayan stepped in, the familiar scent of old paper and fabric filled his lungs. His mother's presence seemed to linger in every inch of the place. He walked to her office and sat in her chair. The same wooden chair she must have spent nights in, planning, writing, hoping. A single photograph lay on the desk. It was of her standing with a group of women, all smiling, all strong. Behind them, a banner read, "The Hope House Annual Meet 2018. Ayan ran his fingers over the image and whispered, "I'll bring this back, Mom. I promise." He opened her old laptop, surprised to find it still worked. Inside were spreadsheets, budgets, notes, and messages, all carefully saved. He could see her discipline, her commitment, her relentless drive. Each document told a story of hard work and compassion. Hours passed as he went through every file, learning how much she had built from so little. But it wasn't just about numbers. It was about people. About lives changed. About her giving hope when she had none left for herself. By evening, Alina joined him with food. "You've been here all day," she said softly. "You need to eat," Ayan smiled faintly. "I didn't realize how much she managed on her own. She was fighting cancer. And still doing all this." "She believed in something bigger than pain," Alina replied. "That's rare." He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "She didn't just raise me, Alina. She raised a part of the world." She looked at him for a long moment, then asked gently, "So what now?" "I'll restart it," he said firmly. "The Hope House will live again," Alina smiled. "Then let's make it happen." They began the next morning. They cleaned every room, fixed broken furniture, painted the walls, and opened the windows to let the sunlight back in. Ayan used his savings to repair the machines and print new banners. Slowly, the place began to breathe again, but it wasn't easy. The cost was higher than he expected, and the workload was endless. There were nights he fell asleep on the floor, exhausted, with his mother's diary beside him. One night, while scrolling through her old emails, he found one labeled unsent for Ayan. His heart raced as he opened it. My dear Ayan, if you ever feel like giving up, remember that even I had days when I thought I couldn't go on. But hope isn't something you find. It's something you build piece by piece with faith. If you want to make me proud, don't build monuments or chase success. Just be kind, be brave, be human. He read it over and over again until the words became part of him. A few weeks later, he held a reopening ceremony for the Hope House. A small crowd gathered, old staff members, local women, and even the lady who had first recognized him. Ayan stood on the same small stage his mother once did. He took a deep breath and began, My mother believed in second chances, not for herself but for others. She taught me that the greatest wealth is not money, but kindness. Today I'm not here to replace her, because no one can. I'm here to honor her, to continue what she began. The audience clapped softly, some wiping away tears. He continued, This place isn't about charity. It's about dignity. Every woman who walks through these doors will find more than a job. She'll find a reason to believe in herself again. That was my mother's dream, and now it's mine. When he finished speaking, the same woman who had greeted him before came forward. She handed him a small envelope. Your mother told me to give you this when the house reopened, she said. Ayan opened it slowly. Inside was a small key and a note, the key to your new beginning. Room 7, her final gift. He walked quickly down the hall, his heart pounding. Room 7 had been locked since his mother's last days. He unlocked it and stepped inside. It was simple. A table, a few chairs, and a wall covered with pinned letters. Hundreds of them. All handwritten. He walked closer and realized each letter was from a woman she had helped. Words of gratitude, love, and strength. One said, She saved my life when no one else cared. Another, Because of her, I believe in myself again. Ayan stood there in silence, tears streaming down his face. Every letter was a story. Every word was proof that his mother had built something far more powerful than a business. Alina entered quietly behind him. What is all this? She asked softly. He smiled through his tears. It's her legacy. Every letter is a heartbeat she kept alive. He turned to her. I think I finally understand what she meant by hope. It's not about what you get from life. It's what you leave behind. Alina nodded, eyes glistening. Then she must be so proud of you right now. Ayan looked around, the golden light filling the room. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. He felt her everywhere, in the laughter of the women, the hum of the sewing machines, the smell of fresh paint. She hadn't gone. She had simply become the place itself. Months passed and the Hope House was alive again. The sound of laughter and sewing machines filled the halls that were once silent. Women who had lost everything now stood tall, earning their own living. Ayan would often walk through the rooms, watching their hands move gracefully across fabric, their eyes glowing with purpose. Every stitch, every smile felt like his mother's blessing. But success came with its shadows. The project grew faster than Ayan had planned. More women wanted to join. The demand for supplies increased, and the donations started to fall short. Bills piled up. Rent was due. The money from his savings had run dry. One evening, he sat in his mother's office, head buried in his hands. Mom, I'm trying, he whispered. But I don't know how long I can keep this going. Alina entered quietly, placing a cup of tea on his desk. You've built something incredible, Ayan, she said softly. But even hope needs funding, he sighed. We can't afford another month like this. We might have to close the new wing. There's another way, she said hesitantly. Mr. Qureshi called. He runs that big fashion company downtown. He wants to collaborate with us. Ayan looked up. The one who was accused of exploiting workers? Alina nodded. Yes, but he's offering a large donation. Enough to keep the Hope House running for a year. Ayan stood up, pacing the room. You think my mother would have taken money from someone like him? She would have done what was best for the women, Alina said carefully. Sometimes doing good means dealing with people we don't like. He didn't reply. His heart was torn. On one hand, he could save the Hope House. On the other, he could betray everything his mother believed in. That night, he couldn't sleep. He opened his mother's old diary, hoping to find an answer. Near the end, written in her shaky handwriting, were these words, "The world will offer you shortcuts, Ayan. They'll seem tempting when you're tired and afraid. But real kindness doesn't come from comfort. It comes from courage." He closed the diary and looked out the window. The moonlight washed over the courtyard where a few women still worked late. Their determination reminded him of her. The next morning, he met Mr. Qureshi in his office. The man smiled warmly. Ayan, I admire what you're doing. Let's make this place even bigger. I'll fund you completely, Ayan nodded politely. And what do you want in return? Just a small favor, Qureshi said casually. We'll make your products for our brand. My label, your labor. Everyone wins, Ayan stared at him. So you want cheap labor? Qureshi laughed. Don't be so dramatic. It's business. You'll have money, they'll have work, and I'll have production. What's wrong with that? Ayan stood up, anger rising. Everything. My mother built this place to give women respect, not to sell their dignity. Qureshi's smile faded. Think carefully, boy. Hope doesn't pay the bills. Ayan's voice trembled, but his words were steady. Maybe not. But it gives life meaning. And that's worth more than your money. He left the office without looking back. Days later, the situation worsened. The funds were nearly gone. Alina worried, but Ayan didn't give up. He started organizing community workshops, social campaigns, and small fundraising events. Slowly, the world began to notice the Hope House again. People started sharing their story online, about a son who rebuilt his mother's dream without selling his soul. Donations began to pour in from strangers around the country. The media picked it up. The Hope House, a son's promise to his mother, became a headline. Within a month, the center was stable again. The women celebrated with tears and laughter, hugging Ayan, thanking him for not giving up. That evening, he sat outside under the same sky his mother used to watch. Alina joined him quietly. You did it, she said softly. He smiled faintly. No, we did it. And she helped, in her own way. He pointed toward the stars. You know, she used to say that hope isn't light, it's fire. It hurts, but it keeps you alive, Alina smiled. Then I think that fire will never go out. Ayan nodded, eyes glistening. Not as long as the Hope House stands. As the night deepened, he looked at the glowing windows of the center, where women worked and laughed, each of them carrying a piece of his mother's dream. And in that moment, Ayan realized something. His mother hadn't left him to continue her work. She had raised him to create his own kind of hope, one that could survive even the darkest nights.